Hello, and thank you for coming to GTO Coach and Go. I'm Jim Delleman with Group Travel Odyssey. And I do want to let you know that we've got a lot to cover today, but very quickly, if you've not joined us before, we do want you to take a moment and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're on YouTube right now, hit that little subscribe button. Also, if you ring the bell, you'll get a notification anytime we have something new on our channel. So make sure you do that. You can also follow us on LinkedIn at Group Travel Odyssey, and you can like our Facebook page. So look for Group Travel Odyssey and like that page when you get a chance. This afternoon, we're going to be bringing on a couple of our experts and going through a topic that we've received a lot of questions about over these past couple of weeks. People are looking for easy ways, different ways to actually do searches in the GTO system. So whether you're searching for suppliers or searching for products, we're going to help you out with that today. So please help me welcome two of our experts. We have Sierra coming on and we have Taylor. So Sierra and Taylor, welcome to Coach and Go today.
Thank you. I'm very excited. It's my very first Coach and Go.
Yay!
And I'm back.
Welcome. Just realized now that you've done this, we're going to be calling on you probably regularly to come on and join us for Coach and Go again. So it always works. Just ask Corey about that. He'll let you know too. Well, as I was saying, today we want to cover basically searching for suppliers, searching for products, finding the right information in the GTO system. And so there are a couple places that we can do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to talk about searching the supplier manager itself. And then Taylor is going to talk a bit later and kind of working through the sales manager aspect and how to search for it easily in the proposal stage.
Excellent. Well, that's fantastic. So if we're going into supplier manager, where how do we go about doing some of these searches? I know that in some of the trainings that I do and in some of the demos as well, people are asking about how do you get restaurants to show up in a specific area, or how do you get attractions to show up? How can they refine the searches, and where can they actually accomplish this in supplier manager?
Sure. I can actually share, I'll lead with this. The reason we're showing you how to search in supplier manager first is sometimes if you are creating a trip to a destination that you're maybe not so familiar with, or now that so many things have changed because of COVID and you don't know what's open and what options are available, especially when you're traveling to something New York, DC, that are so large, there can be so many restaurants, but what's open, what's available. Sometimes it might be easier to search in supplier manager before you're adding it to your proposal so you know the keywords to look for. So that's why we're going to teach you in supplier manager first. For those of you that are been with us since the beginning of Group Travel Odyssey, you've probably seen this before, but there might be some tricks that maybe we haven't talked about, or just a little refresher for you. And some of these I'm just answered last week and even this morning for some users, and some tips on how to filter suppliers down to get exactly what you're looking for. So I'm going to share my screen and show you supplier manager. Oops, screen
2. Okay.
Perfect. So we're on the homepage of the supplier manager, and most of your screens probably look like this. And if we just scroll down a little bit, there are, and I know you've all seen these, search by supplier. There's a search for products. There's a search for a parent company, contacts. And there are also these clever reports that we've made available for everyone that it just takes a click of a button. And so let's do dining in Orlando. There are 2 ways that you can accomplish that in the supplier manager. Going to be the same for the sales manager, and Taylor's going to show you that. But if we type in here, and it kind of says it in the background, but even up here, for general searches, place and between your search terms, Orlando and hotel. So let's say we're looking for a restaurant in Orlando. We can either hit enter or just this magnifying glass. And it's going to bring up now 79 different suppliers that have dining in them in Orlando, Florida only, or if they're tagged in multiple places. So You can scroll through this easily and look at all of the different restaurants that are in Orlando. And why this might be useful for you is I use the right click button a lot. So what I could do, let's say I want to compare, Dave and Buster's to Andretti, or I want to compare two different pizza restaurants. If I just right click this eye and open it, and we'll just do CC's since it's here. Now you're on the main supplier screen. I know you've all seen this. In the pricing section, you could see all the different prices right at a glance. So I could do the youth playoff menu if it's a Monday through Friday, looking at $27 per person for that playoff and power card. Easily, I'm now on CC's. I hit this pricing button, and I've got an $8.99 plus 6.5% tax, dine-in, unlimited buffet. So again, just a simple way back from this, right click, say we're going to compare Drive Shack to, its counterpart, maybe Top Golf, to see which pricing might fit into a budget better. So you've got a 2-hour unlimited bay play at $35 at Drive Shack. And so, again, I just simply typed in, I'm going to go back to my main screen. I typed in dining and Orlando, and I have 79 options that I could easily right click and open and look at the different prices to compare easy for that, or just find what I'm looking for. If I go back to the home screen, there is also this map suppliers by destination. And I can click it. It gives you 3 options. So the destination includes, let's say Orlando. We'll stick with that. You can also pick a different one, but I'm going to just say Orlando, again, to show you that Orlando and dining. And if you hit display report, it takes a little bit to load because it's mapping out every single one of those 79 suppliers. And once it loads, this is what it looks like. And so now you can even see what's my closest dining that we have in the GTO system to the airport. Or what's my closest one? I know I'm staying over in the Disney area. What's my closest dining options towards Disney? So that's an easy way. Again, that is from the home screen here. These reports down here that you might not have even looked at, map suppliers by destination. You can pick Los Angeles and hotels. You could pick, anything. And then you could sort it by attractions. My only caveat with this, you must pick a destination and you must pick a supplier type. And then when you hit display report, it will create all of those suppliers in that destination with that supplier type. So that's another easy way that you could search by destination and supplier type. I go back to that main supplier homepage. I also have this cool list that we have created for you all, and this is just a transportation list. And another way to filter down, so if you don't want to use a custom list that we've already created there for you, this handy funnel right here, and when I hover over it, it says show column filters. If I hit that, you've noticed that this opens up for you up here. And so you can actually filter any one of these lines that have one. So again, we'll just keep Orlando, for instance, since we've been talking about it. If we go to filter and type in Orlando, for instance, I now have 15 suppliers that have been tagged Orlando. But let's make it even broader. I'm back on the transportation list of 645 suppliers we have in our system. And I'm going to filter it to Florida because I know my group is coming out of Florida. And now here are 30 different transportation suppliers all in a list for you that are filtered by Florida. And again, how did I get to that? Back on the supplier manager homepage, this transportation list. So if you're looking for a motor coach company in a certain destination, click that funnel, filter it down to the destination, or the state is the best way to do it for transportation, and you'll get a list of those transportations. This COI expiration date calendar is normally used by your operations team. And if you upload a motor coach COI, this will give them a calendar so they'll know when it expires. So in case anybody's wondering what that is, not everybody uses it, but most people's operations team use that. And again, if I don't want to go up here and type in Orlando and dining, I could go to the main supplier report, this handy funnel. You're all going to hear me when you're doing this. You're going to get the handy funnel. I can type in destination Orlando. I have filtered it down to 262 suppliers in Orlando, but I can go even further. I can filter it down to just attractions now in Orlando, or I can even pick multiple on this one. So instead of having to only pick one supplier type, I can now do attractions and dining in Orlando. And now I have 102 choices. So why is this different than searching in Sales Manager? Again, instead of seeing things maybe in a little box like you do in Sales Manager when you're adding to a proposal, this is a nice clean list format that might be a little easier for you to read and search through. And also there are just so many filters that you can add by destination, by supplier type. You can even, if you know part of a name, you could just search by that part of the name. You know it's in there, but you can't remember what it's called, that sort of thing. So a very easy way. You can clear all the filters and you can start again. You type something wrong. So funnel, and then anything that opens up, all of these can be filtered down. Let's say you only know the phone number. I could just type that in and it'll bring up the listing, that sort of thing. So those are just some easy, quick ways to find what you're looking for at the click of a button, and just a few keywords or a few filters that you should put in to accomplish what you are doing. You don't find something, I know we've talked about this, but again, just that help desk down there to put in something that you're not finding. I'm going to give you one example real quick, because this one can be fun on the sales side, much like Walt Disney World. So I want to go to Andretti, and if I just typed in Andretti there, you can see we've got a bunch of different Andrettis in multiple locations. But if I'm going to click on the Orlando one to keep it consistent, what we've been talking about, Andretti actually offers 39 products for groups. And when you're on the sales side, that can be very confusing reading small print and how do I figure out what I want? I would encourage you to come to Sales or Supplier Manager and maybe look for which package you want in Supplier Manager, because then you'll be able to just type in some keywords over in sales that might make it easier to find which one of the 39 packages that you want to add. And Taylor's going to show you that just after this. There's another thing. So you can see all the different products. Again, if I just hit this pricing and I scroll down, let's say I know my group has a $33 budget. I can quickly, in just scrolling down in all the 2022s, pick out kind of which ones are $32 and under. So let's say I decided I want this pole position package at $24.50. Includes a pizza buffet, a 1 hour arcade, a 1 hour bowling, etc. Now when I go into sales, I can find Andretti, pick pole position really easily, whereas before I'd have to scroll through all of these different things and figure it out. So again, in a quick glance, you could scroll down and you just see how many 2022 prices there are, and you can more easily see what might fit into your group budget and whatnot. And there's one more thing, and why I wanted to bring up this particular example is in Supplier Manager. If I get an attachment from a supplier that has to do with a bunch of different packages and it's for all tour operators, I do attach that in Supplier, and that is available for all of you to use. And so that might even, let's say Walt Disney World, for those of you who are different buyer levels, you could find that attachment and figure out the pricing range. The same thing for Andretti. And so if you just click on any one of these documents, you can see the different packages. So we'll just open up this one. And so you just click on it, it will download and you can open it. And here are all of the 2022 Andretti Lunch and Dinner Student Tour Operator packages. And again, a little easier to read. You can see directly from the supplier what they've given us to then be translated into GTO. And again, if you're on that certain budget and you're like, I only have $30 per person, what can I do? Again, I can see two right off the bat that are 30 and under. This one's 30 and under. So that might be a good way too on some of these suppliers that just have a massive amount of product offerings to look at it just a different way. All of this can be used however you want it. Again, we're just trying to make it easy for you. And so please know that those attachments are there for your use. If you can see them, they're there for you. If you're not supposed to see them, you're not going to. And that actually applies to, I wanted to remind you, I know that we've talked about this before, but your company does have the option of adding attachments themselves. And so if you get something from the supplier that you want to attach for, further down the line to look at, you hit add attachment and it's really easy. It walks you through a couple things and you can add it. So that'll be there forever. You also have the option to add information. So let's say you talked to Elaine at Andretti and you wanted to make a special note only for your company about Andretti. Hit add information. I can't do it because I'm in test mode, but you hit add information, you pick your company and you add the information, you hit save. And now on Andretti, it's going to show you and your company only what information you want them to know about your conversation with Elaine at Andretti or whatever that might look like. So just wanted to remind you, attachments and information can be filtered down to your company. And again, something like Andretti, something like Walt Disney World, something like Amish Experience. They have a ton of products. If you wanted to look at the PDF that came from the supplier so you can pick out a little easier the products you want, those are available in the supplier attachments from the supplier manager.
Excellent. Excellent. And we talked earlier a little bit about doing your research in supplier manager. And we all suggest if you're going to an area that you may not be as familiar with, say you always do trips to Orlando, but you rarely do trips to Tyler, Texas, which we talked about in Destination Dispatch last week. You can go in and search for those products in supplier manager so you can familiarize yourself with not only the supplier, but everything that they offer and the pricing. So that way, when you are in sales manager, it makes it a little bit easier for you. So,
we do have a lot of resources for CVBs as well. CVBs or DMOs. We have tried to beef up our offerings there. And so if you're looking for a certain destination and there's not a lot of information, if you want to contact our team to start looking at that, but also we do have a lot of CVBs in their contacts, so you can even contact them to get information so that we can get it in. So that's another thing you can search for in supplier that really won't show up in sales manager because there are no products under them, but they are available to search in supplier to find some contacts for those destinations.
Okay. That sounds
great.
I
would also say that even if you are familiar with a location where you're planning a trip, it's always a good idea to just start in that supplier manager because like Sierra said, there are suppliers with just a ton of products. You want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date pricing. You want to make sure that if you're going to stay at a Marriott in downtown Orlando, you have the right Marriott in downtown Orlando. So I feel like it's always a good idea to start in supplier manager first.
Okay. That's fantastic. Okay, so going from supplier manager, if we're going into sales, if we have people that are building their trips, that are going in and trying to find products and trying to find suppliers there to add them, how would they go about doing that, Taylor?
Well, I would love to show you. I'm going to share my screen now. All right, here we go. So as you can see, I am in a test trip right now. This is our test account in Orlando, Florida, and I'm sure this is a very familiar screen to all of you. I'm going to go to my add product screen, and I'm going to add a trip product because this is where we will be searching for those suppliers that we've been talking about. And so just to show you as an example, we pulled up Andretti on the supplier side. When you pull up Andretti here, and we're going to go to the Orlando one. This is exactly what Sierra is talking about. If you try and come over here and get your products and pricing here, I mean, the list is just endless and it is almost impossible to compare things. You're not getting the full price descriptions and menus on here. So that's just, a side-by-side of what that looks like in supplier versus sales manager and why it's always a good idea to start on that supplier side. But as Sierra mentioned too, if you happen to go into the supplier side, you've done your research, you know which package you would like to include here. You can actually just start typing it in the search bar under products. So she mentioned the pole position package. You can literally just start typing pole and the pole position packages pop up right here. And then you are dealing with just a few prices and products as opposed to, 39 plus. So there's a couple other pitfalls that you can fall into. I would say that searching on the sales manager side is a little bit more intuitive. You don't have to be quite as specific with your language. You can type in things like Boston Hotel and it's going to come up and you can see it's literally highlighting the destination. It's not pulling only from the supplier names or, it's not only pulling from one keyword at a time. But one of the things I had just mentioned earlier is, if you aren't doing your research on the supplier side and you go in, especially to a large area like Orlando, like New York, like Chicago, like Boston, you can run into a situation where you might actually see more than one hotel in Boston under the name that you're looking for. And when you're right here looking, for instance, let's look up Boston and Marriott, because that's one I know there's more than one. So if you're looking here, there is actually 2 Boston Marriotts, 1 Burlington, 1 Copley Place. And if you haven't done your research on the supplier side or looked at that map that Sierra showed you, you might not know which one you're actually looking for. And it's very, very important, not only for accurate rates, accurate quotes, but also to have the correct address pop up on your itineraries. So we definitely want to be careful that we are selecting the correct, when there's multiple suppliers in large areas like this, that we're selecting the correct ones. Something else that you can do too. So we've been talking about Orlando. Obviously I could type in Orlando dining, pops up with all of those things that Sierra showed us. Obviously a little harder to navigate on this side than it is on the supplier side. But let's say we want to go to the Hard Rock. So I can start typing Hard Rock Orlando. There it is. I'm going to click on that, go over to my products. And you can see we've got a Youth Gold menu, Youth Gold bundle menu. There's several menus. There's student menus. There's adult tour menus. And you can see some very important information right here. And that's what I want to talk about. So we're going to see minimum to maximum group sizes. So you want to double check and make sure that your group can be accommodated. You get a slight description here. Sometimes you'll get the activity duration if it's an attraction. But the most important thing here also, besides the actual product and price, is these valid dates. So I know that a couple people have run into this where they are looking through these prices. They're clicking on the one that, might be even just right at the top because it's the most convenient. And it doesn't actually have valid pricing in it for the dates of your trip. So one important thing to make sure that you are doing, for instance, we have diamond menu pricing here from 2020, which is no longer valid, but is still selectable here. So you definitely want to make sure that you are selecting not only the correct product, the correct pricing, but the correct dates as well. But as far as searching here over on the sales manager side, there's a little leniency involved. I mean, you can type in attraction, you can type in multiple kinds of suppliers. You can type in, any city, any kind of supplier, and it's going to start populating answers for you a little easier than on that supplier side. So there's definitely some leeway here where it might seem like it's easier to find things on this side, and it is if you know what you're looking for already.
Excellent. That's excellent. And one thing to mention too, Taylor, is, if something happens that they do choose a price that is not valid anymore, they do get notified almost immediately. As soon as they add that product, they'll get a notification saying you may not be using accurate pricing or current pricing. And then it also will give them a little bit of a buffer. So if there isn't correct pricing in there, you can see right there, it says attention, you might be using incorrect pricing. But if we do not have from the supplier their pricing for the date that you're traveling, you can still use this in a proposal, and it gives you a bit of a buffer in case their pricing does happen to go up a little bit. So that is in there as well. But that's one of the things for our users to always be careful of, is that if you notice that it says attention, you may not be using current pricing, then go back and check through and see if the current pricing is actually in there, or the pricing for when you're traveling. We have a lot of 2022 pricing in here. We have some 2023 pricing. So for those of you who are booking 2023 groups, if we don't have that, you can use the 2022 pricing. And as I said, it'll give you a little bit of a buffer as well.
Absolutely. And if that is a new supplier that was just added to the system, we might not have been contacted with their pricing yet. The biggest difference is, it will still pop up with this message. However, the proposal language and the pricing language will say must put in pricing estimate. So that way you can add it to your proposal. You can estimate a price. You can contact a CBV, or you can contact the supplier themselves to get an estimated price. But that way, if you have a client that's asking for that proposal that day, you can still add it to that itinerary. But you do want to make sure that that is the case, as opposed to using out-of-date pricing.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Stop sharing my screen.
Okay. There we go. A couple of things that I know we've all discussed as well is, when people are searching for a supplier, the way that we have suppliers entered into our system, the name we use is the name that we receive either from their information that they send us, or from the way that it's listed on their website. So some of our users might be using kind of not the full name as it actually appears. So please be aware, if you're having a few issues finding things, look for the actual name of the company, or the actual name of the supplier, because that will help you to kind of refine that search, so that way you can find the information that you need. So that's how we do our naming, and we're very kind of adamant about it, that it does go in by the way that it appears in their website. So that way we're using their accurate name. We all want to be called by our correct name. So, the suppliers the same way.
I was going to mention that. I wrote that down since it triggered when Taylor was talking about hotels and finding them, is the hotels, especially because there are so many Marriotts in New York, Orlando, Boston. It is the full, some of them very obnoxiously long name that is on that hotel website. And we did that for a reason, so that you could easily find it and differentiate it, the two Boston Marriotts. Another really easy thing that I didn't mention, but I know we've mentioned before, and I always encourage people to do, you can search by just part of the name. And so if it's a difficult name, and you're not sure if it includes the apostrophe or not, or, you've added an extra space, or why isn't it coming up? You can search by just a part of the name. And it should pull up for you either on the supplier manager side or the sales side. And the same thing for if you know it's in there and you're like, why can't I find it? If you just search by the numbers of the address, if you know that it's at 1800 First Street, if you just type in 1800, it might pull up 2 or 3 suppliers that are at 1800 some street, and you're like, oh, that's what it's called. And that's the difficult thing about some CVBs as well, is you might think they're called Tyler, Texas CVB, but we have them in as Tyler, Texas Chamber of Commerce, because that's what it actually is on their website. And so we have a couple that have both of their names, but again, if I just typed in that little part of their address, then it would bring it up easy, or just typed in Tyler, Texas, that sort of thing. So type in a little bit. I encourage you, instead of putting in what you think the full name is, use a little bit of the name or a little bit of the address, and almost always you'll find it that way.
Absolutely. And that's, that's very true, because I know when I was doing research for Tyler last week, and I was looking for Tyler CVB, and I was looking for all of that, and it's Visit Tyler is their official name, and you're sitting there going, oh, okay, that makes sense. So yeah, if you just type in Tyler, then you find all the information that you want. So sometimes less is more.
Yes. I've run into those roadblocks this week, dealing with a lot of Irish suppliers for St. Patrick's Day, that, Saint is sometimes ST period or ST no period, or the actual Saint spelled out. Much easier to just type in Patrick. Much easier.
Yep. Speaking of that is kind of a good segue here. This Thursday, we have our destination dispatch, and every Thursday at 2 p.m., we take you to a new amazing group destination. And this week, we're going overseas. Since it is St. Patrick's Day, this Thursday, our destination dispatch is going to be about Ireland. So join us as we welcome Shannon Carter, and she's going to be taking us through a really fantastic group itinerary for Ireland, and give you all of the pointers and everything that you need so your groups can make the most of their trip to Ireland. So join us on Thursday at 2 p.m. for Ireland. And you can help us celebrate St. Patrick's Day. So we'll all be dressed in green and and having lots of fun. So again, that is on Thursday of this week. I want to thank you guys for joining us today, Sierra and Taylor. Thank you so much. Taylor, congratulations on your first GTO Coach and Go.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was a great time. Thank you.
Wonderful. We like to remind all of our users that, we want you to be a part of our community. So your feedback is important to us. We've given you our email addresses during this, and most of you know how to get in touch with us anyway. Again, remember to like our Facebook page. You can find us on LinkedIn, Group Travel Odyssey. You can also find our YouTube channel and subscribe to that. But we want your feedback, so that way we can give you this information and help you use GTO in a little more efficient and easy way for you. So don't ever hesitate to contact us, and we'll be here for you. So thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Take care.
Thank you for watching this episode of GTO Coach and Go. We invite you to stay connected with Group Travel Odyssey on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and be sure to check out more of our media, including Destination Dispatch and the Destinations Beyond Expectations podcast. Please visit our website, grouptravelodyssey.com, where you can learn more about GTO and request a demo. Group Travel Odyssey, business without boundaries.